Hi folks, Rachel Malone here, Texas Director of Gun Owners of America. Let's talk about suppressors. Here's an example of a traditional firearm suppressor. This fits onto the end of a firearm and it functions a lot like a muffler on a car or a dirt bike. The purpose is to lower the sound levels enough to reduce the risk of permanent hearing damage. Now, a lot of people don't know much about firearm suppressors. They're heavily regulated in the US and also they're grossly misrepresented in TV shows and movies. So let's examine 3 commonly held myths about firearm suppressors. Myth number 1, it silences a gun. No, it doesn't. Like I said, the purpose is to lower the noise level to reduce the risk of permanent hearing damage. So let's do a demonstration. I'm going to shoot this traditional hunting rifle with no suppressor and we'll see what it sounds like. Now keep in mind the camera may alter the noise a little bit, but you should be able to get the gist of what it sounds like. Without a suppressor, a gunshot is around 160 decibels. That's enough that one single gunshot can cause permanent hearing damage. And that's why the CDC actually recommends use of a firearm suppressor in order to reduce the level under 140 decibels, which is the occupational hazard limit. So now let's see what it sounds like with a suppressor. Now this gun has already been safety checked around, and so I'm going to just put the suppressor on and we're going to see what the difference is. Now keep in mind again, the camera may alter the sound a little bit, but you should be able to get the idea of what it sounds like with a suppressor. On average, a suppressed gunshot has decibel levels around the mid-130s. Now, it varies a lot depending on the actual gun configuration, the specific ammo and the suppressor, and your environment in which you're shooting. But it's accurate to say it's around the mid-130s. That's just below the occupational hazard level of 140 decibels. Now, if I was around suppressed gunfire all day, I'd still want to use hearing protection. But a few suppressed gunshots are probably not going to cause me permanent hearing damage, and that's the goal of a suppressor. So now that we've gone over how a suppressor functions, let's go to myth number 2. It's dangerous. No, it's not. I mean, it's kind of heavy, and if I dropped it on my toe, that might hurt. But apart from that, the CDC actually recommends it to safeguard your health. It's more dangerous not to use a suppressor. It's safer to use one. So that brings us to myth number 3. Only criminals use them? Nah, not true. There's actually no evidence criminals use them at all, unlike what you see in the movies. Also, I don't see why a criminal would want to add something to a gun that makes it heavier, longer, harder to conceal, and only reduces the noise levels about 30 decibels. So who does use a suppressor? You know what? Anybody who shoots a gun and doesn't want permanent hearing damage. That's who uses a suppressor. Also, for hunters, it makes it easier to communicate with other hunters in the field with you. For recreational shooting, it saves others hearing around you, and it makes your shooting less of a nuisance to the neighborhood and the community you're shooting in. In fact, in some countries, it's even considered rude not to use a suppressor to shoot. So hopefully that helps you to understand more about suppressors, what they are and how they function, and why people use them. Currently, to own a suppressor, you have to comply with an onerous set of federal rules and regulations. Separately, the state of Texas has added criminal penalties for anybody who has a suppressor without following those federal regulations. And that is why I am so thankful that Representative Oliverson has introduced HB 2286. This bill here in the Texas legislature would get rid of the Texas penalty and the Texas law against owning a suppressor. And it would also say that our personnel, the state of Texas, is not going to help the federal government enforce their onerous suppressor regulations. We don't agree with those regulations. We don't think they should exist, and we don't want our state people and resources being used to enforce them. So thank you, Representative Oliverson, for your leadership. And everyone else, I hope you join me in supporting HB 2286 here in Texas.